So welcome to our next episode. In today's class, we're going to learn about Python built-in data structure, which is called tuple. So if you look at our previous class, we discussed about list. In this class, we're going to talk about tuple. So what I'm going to focus on, I'm going to focus on learning the concept so that you can code better. So if you expect me to teach you practically, you are in the wrong place. What I'm going to teach you is I'm going to teach you the theoretical aspect so that you can understand deep down what you are doing when you go back to your computer and start writing code. So if this sounds interesting to you, you can stay and watch me explaining what is tuple and how to work with tuple very effectively. So what is, at the beginning, before we dive into tuple, let's discuss a little bit about data structure. So we all know that data structure is just organizing, it's just teaching you how to organize data. So we have different way of organizing data. We can organize data on a stack, in a horizontal way, in a list, in a different kind of format. So tuple is one of those storage where you can store a data based on some rules. You know, a list, you can store data. When you store the data, you can remove it, you can put it back, you can change it, you can do whatever you want. But in case of tuples, it's different. Maybe you want to store, maybe you want it, if you store a data, you don't want anyone to mess around with your data. So the best way, the best thing to use, the best storage or the best concept to use for storing your data is tuple, because when you store your data in tuple, no one can mess around with it programmatically, not hard-coded. In hard-coded, you can change what you write, but programmatically, you can change it. You can only retrieve it to see what you put. It's just like a read-only, if you know what I mean, read-only, but not write. So let's learn about the concept of tuple. What is tuple? Let me start discussing about, don't know whether you can see. We're going to start by what is tuple. So like I said, I already explained. Imagine a tuple is a box where you can store all of the data. So this is the box where I can store my data inside this box. So whatever I put inside this box, this is the data. I can arrange them the way I want. I can put them in the order I want. But whatever I put it, put this back in your mind that you cannot change it. When you put it, you can't change it. If I put here, I put this data, I put this data, put this. So, but you cannot change the data. Since you put them like this is how you're going to see it inside a tuple. But in tuple, we can't store these cycle things. So we understand what is tuple. Tuple is just another way of storing data, but you cannot change what you store inside the data structure. So how are we going to create a tuple inside your program? How can you create a tuple and store your data inside? Maybe you might ask, why do I need a tuple? So when you come to using a database, tuple is very, very important, especially when you are creating an object and you don't want anyone to change what you store inside that object, because maybe it's going to break something to the root of your code. So you can use tuple instead of other data structure that another user can change what you store inside. So tuple is very, very important. But as a beginner, just learn it this way, learn the concept, understand it, because I'm very, very sure that at this point, maybe you will not understand the main useful of tuple, but when you go further and start creating big project, that's the best time you're going to understand the importance of tuple. So now let's see how we're going to create a tuple. So for us to create a tuple, the first thing we're going to give it a name, and then we put our item we want. So let me create a tuple where I'm going to store a fruit. Maybe I'm going to store some fruit inside it. So this is the name of my box, which is the tuple box. I will call it fruit. Then I will store some item inside. I'm going to store mango. Then I'm going to store some banana and other. So as you can see, right now I created a tuple. This is exactly how you're going to create a tuple when you are writing a program. You're going to write the name of your tuple, which is just like the way you are creating a variable. This is how you're going to create a tuple. The name of the tuple, then you put parentheses, open and close parentheses, and then the item you wanted to store inside the tuple. So this is how we're going to create a tuple. And like I said, in case of list, I can do something like this. I can just say fruits, you know whether you can see it. I can just say fruits index 0. When I say index 0, this means I'm referring to mango. You know, maybe I can have thousands of items inside my tuple. So if I wanted to access one single of them, I'm going to call the name of the tuple. Then in front of it, I'm going to put a square bracket, then the number of that item. So this is how it works. The first item is going to have an index of 0. Then the second item is going to have an index of 1, and so on and so forth. So now I wanted to look for the first item. This is the reason why I put index 0, which is I'm referring to mango. So let's say I put equal to then guava. So by doing something like this, we're going to encounter type error, which is telling you that tuple doesn't support this kind of assignment operation. So when you try to do this, try to change the first element inside a tuple, you're going to get an error. And I really wanted you to try it when you go back to your computer. So now we understand how to create a tuple, and we talk a little bit about index. This is what we call index. So the first element has an index of 0, and the second element has an index of 1, the third, fourth, and so on and so forth. So this is what we call an index, and you can access elements using their index. If I have like 1000 elements, so I wanted to look what is the 99th element, I can just use the index of that element and retrieve it. So then what about slicing? Since we understand indexing, because before you understand slicing, you have to understand indexing first. So we understand what is indexing. Slicing is just slicing some portion of your element. So now I have only 2 elements. So for us to do slicing, I have to add others. Banana. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 elements inside my tuple. So slicing, if I want to slice some portion of my tuple, maybe I just wanted to know what are the elements from first element. I wanted to know the element that start from the first and maybe from the third or fourth element. So I wanted to see those elements. So for me to do that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to call the name of my tuple, which is fruit. Then I put index, square bracket, I mean. So inside the square bracket, the first number is telling the Python program or the Python interpreter where to start looking for the element I want, which is the start. So if I said I wanted to start cutting my element from first one, which is the first index, banana, then I will put 1. So this one telling me, telling the Python program that I wanted to start taking my element from banana, then all the way to, then maybe I wanted to take guava. Then I'm just wanted maybe to take the first element and the second element and the third element. So I'm going to say start from index 1 and stop at the index of this element plus 1, which is the index of this is 2, then plus 1, which is equals 3. So this is how I'm going to slice only these 2 elements. So what I'm going to see in the output, I'm just going to see only banana and waba. This is what I'm going to see in the output. I'm going to see only these two elements. So this is what we call a slicing. I just cut some of my element inside a tuple. So if you really understand what I did here, you really understand what is tuple. What is just remains for you now to know is just some method that you can use with tuple. For example, I can set my fruit dot index. Maybe I know that I have apple inside my tuple, but I don't know exactly where the apple, what is the index of that apple. So I can call this method called index, then I put the name of the apple, something like this. So if I do something like this, call the name of my tuple, then this method called index, and then I put the name of the element I wanted to know, it is index. So it's going to return me the index, which is, I'm going to see something like 0, 1, 2, 3. Then I'm going to see the output of 3. So you see, we have a lot of other methods, but to me, those methods, they are not that useful unless based on the project you wanted to work with, because they are a lot. So when you try to do something, just Google it or ask ChatGPT, how can I do this with tuple? But before you do that, make sure you already understand what you are doing. So if you have any question, you can ask in the comment section below. See you in our next concept.